One second, I'm sending this message. WhatsApp is also signed. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining this morning Bhagavatam reading. It's Kalpataru Mataji's class, so I think she's not able to do. I'm just going to read this morning verses and share whatever I could. So let us offer prayers. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Utapadakamala Sri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunadanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prashabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyev cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namavam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nithinamini Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschasya Desatarini Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktaranda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let us recite the prayers to Srimad Bhagavatam. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye susrusho shraddhadanasya vasudeva kataruchi sanmat sevaya vipra punyatirtha nishevanat srunvatam swakata krishna punyasravana kirtana hridayantasto iha bhadrani vidunoti suhusatam नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी तदा रजस्तमो भावा कामलोभादयश्चै चेतयेतैरनाविद्धं स्थितं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति एवं प्रसन्न मनसो भगवद्भक्तियोगता भगवत्तत्त्वविज्ञानं मुक्तसङ्गः जायते विद्यते हृदयाग्रन्थिश्चिध्यन्ते सर्वसंशया Siyante sasya karmani drishta evatmanishware. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Thank you all once again for joining this morning Bhagavatam reading. So with all your prayers, blessings of the Lordship, Sri Radha Madhav, Srila Prabhupada, so we'll read these 3 verses. This is reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, verse 9 to 11. So these are the description about the super soul within the heart. Right? Yesterday, Vamshidhar Prabhu nicely explained about the 8th verse. Right? So it is the exercise of the Lord and what he carries in his 4 hands. Right? So lotus, disc, conch and club. Right? So we will read these verses. Prasanna Vaktram Nalinayate Kshanam Kadamba Kinjal Kapishanga Vashasam Lasan Maharatna Hiranmayan Gadam Spruhun Maharatna Kirita Kundalam. Very nice verse. Prasanna expresses happiness. Vaktram, mouth. Nalinayata, spread like the petals of a lotus. E- Ikshanam, eyes. Kadamba, kadamba flower. Kinjalka, saffron. Pisanga, yellow. Vasasam, garments. Lasat, hanging. Maharatna, valuable jewels. Hiranmaya, made of gold. Angadam, ornament. Spruhat, glowing. Maharatna, valuable jewels. Kirita, headdress. Kundalam, earrings. Translation: his mouth expresses his happiness. His eyes spread like the petals of a lotus, and his garments, yellowish like the saffron of Kadamba flower, are bedecked with jewels, valuable jewels. His ornaments are all made of gold, set with jewels, and he wears a glowing headdress and earrings. I will read once again the translation. His mouth expresses his happiness. His eyes spread like the petals of a lotus, and his garments, yellowish like the saffron of Kadamba flower, are bedecked with valuable jewels. His ornaments are all made of gold. And made of set with jewels, and he wears a glowing headdress and earrings. Next 10. Unidrahrut pankaja karnikalaye. 1 second. Unidrahut pankaja karnikalaye Yogeshwarastapita pada pallavam Sri Lakshanam Kausthabharatna Kandaram Amlana Lakshma Vanamalayachitam. Unidra, blooming. Krut, heart. Pankaja, lotus flower. Karnikalaye, on the surface of the wall. Yoga Ishvara, the great mystics. Astapita, placed. Pada Pallavam, lotus feet. Sri, the goddess of fortune, or a beautiful calf. Lakshanam, marked in that way. Kaustubha, the Kaustubha jewel. Ratna, other jewels. Kandharam, on the shoulder. Amlana, Amlana, quite fresh. Lakshmiya, beauty. Vana Malaya, by a flower garland. Achitam, spread over. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. His lotus feet are placed over the walls of a lotus like hearts of a great mystics. On his chest is Kaustubha jewel engraved with a beautiful calf, and there are other jewels on his shoulders. His complete torso is garlanded with fresh flowers. Purport: the ornaments, flowers, clothing, and all other decorations on the transcendental body of the personality of Godhead are identical with the body of the Lord. None of them are made of material ingredients. Otherwise, there would be no chance of their decorating the body of the Lord. As such, in Paravyoma, spiritual varieties are also distinguished from the material variegatedness. Text 11. Vibhushitam meka layan meka layan anguliyakair mahadanair nupura kankadabhi snigdhamala akunchita Neelakuntale Virochamanana Hasapesalam Vibhushitam, well decorated. Mekalaya, with an ornament breadth about the waist. Anguliyakya, by finger rings. Mahadanai, all highly valuable. Nupura, ringing leglets. Kankanadibi, also by bangles. Snigdha, slick. Amala, spotless. Akunchita, curling. Neela, bluish. Kuntalai, hair. Virochamana, very pleasing. Anana, face. Hasa, smile. Pesalam, beautiful. Translation: he is well decorated with an ornamental wreath about his waist and rings studded with valuable jewels on his fingers. His leglets, his bangles, his oiled hair curling with a bluish tint, and his beautiful smiling face are all very pleasing. Purport: the supreme personality of Godhead is the most beautiful person amongst all others. And Srila Sukadeva Goswami describes every part of his transcendental beauty, one after another, in order to teach the impersonalist that the personality of Godhead is not an imagination by the devotee for facility of worship, but is the supreme person in fact and figure. The impersonal feature of the absolute truth is but is radiation, as the sun rays are but radiations from the sun. So it's very nice description about the super soul, right? Generally, I used to think, right? So, soul or something like this, like a light, right? Generally, before we hear from, before we heard from the parampara, right? So, that impersonal tendencies will be there. So, but yeah, here the beautiful description about the super soul within our heart is given by Sukadeva Goswami. So, just wanted to a little bit quick. Uh, uh, I didn't prepare much. It was actually, I just wanted to connect all the verses until now what we read in the 11th chapter, and we will quickly describe about the Acha Vigraha form of the Lord who is appearing in front of us. Right, if you remember, in the first canto, 19th chapter, Sukadeva Goswami appeared. So, because when Parikshit Maharaj got cursed that he is going to die in 7 days, so he went to the banks of the river, right, Ganga, and then a lot of other sages and everybody came from all over the world. So his primary question was, okay, what am I supposed to do now? Right? What is the duty of a person, and what is the duty of a person who is about to die? That is a very specific question. So there are so many different varieties of sages and munis. Everybody came. They have their own realizations, and they were giving their own kind of answers. But of course, then Sukadeva Goswami is the chief amongst all of them. They chose him to give answer to that question, what Parikshit Maharaj was asking. So then he did not directly, he did not only give bhakti, he gave a lot of other details also, because he wanted to get everybody else also onto the on the path of bhakti. Right? I was just remembering, the Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj doing, who is great, Brahmana or Vaishnava. He first glorifies the Brahmana so much, right? They are all kind of very kind of happy. And then he talks about Vaishnava is the greater than the Brahmana. So Sukadeva Goswami is doing, of course, he did much before. So he did the similar kind of thing, right? He was explaining about Virata Rupa in the first chapter of the second canto, right? He glorified a lot Virata Rupa. And then then he talked about little bit bhakti there and the superiority of the bhakti. And then he talked about the Ashtanga Yoga also, right? In very detailed, he talked about. So, then in the second canto, how it starts, the question comes, okay, is it possible to achieve success by meditating on the Virata Rupa? Then Sukadeva Goswami gives that first verse, right? Lord Brahma did that in the beginning of the creation. So Brahmaji created this universe by meditating on this Virata Rupa only, right? So then the next question comes, is it, what about attaining Swarga by practicing Karma Kanda? Is that not a worthy of life? Then second verse, Sukadeva Goswami says, no, it is not, right? So what he says, second one, the way of presentation of the Vedic sounds is so bewildering that it directs the intelligence of the people to meaningless things like the heavenly kingdoms. He says meaningless things. The conditioned souls hover in dreams of such heavenly illusory pleasures, but actually they do not relish any tangible happiness in such places. So even after going there, there is no happiness. There is a relative happiness, but it's not a eternal happiness, right? So then he says it is not worth it. Then again he talks about it is like a dream, right? So the happiness is happiness. It is like a dream. The happiness one gets, it is a temporary thing. It is not going to last long. So then what an intelligent person should do? The next verse he talks about enlightened person should endeavor only for the minimum necessities of life. He gives very detailed what one should do, right? So and then he should intelligent at the same time he has to use that time to fix his mind on the supreme lord, right, on the super soul. One should not endeavor for unwanted things. So I mean, then he talks about what are those minimum necessities, right, to keep the body and soul together. He gives in the text 4 and 5, right, when there are ample earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of carts and beds, so and so on, right? Why when we have arms, why do we need pillows, right? I mean, people, I mean, I think many devotees explained in detail, right, in the earlier classes. So this simple living and high thinking, right? So because when people spend a lot of time in getting all those unnecessary things, I mean, we made them so-called necessary right now, but yeah, I mean, if from the point of spiritual life or from minimum necessities, yeah, they may not be necessary, right? So then he talks about in the text 6. So one has to, I mean, fix one's mind by not accumulating those unnecessary things, right? One can end this cause for this material life, right? So conditioned life. So then one has to fix one's mind on the super soul within the heart. So then the next verse is talks about yeah, that one by worshiping him, and one will be able to end the conditioned state of existence in the verse 6. In the 7 he talks about who rejects this, such a great thing, right? So who is that person who rejects this kind of thing? So then he talks about who other than the gross materialists, right? The karma kanda people, they engage in the karma kanda, they try to go to the heavenly planets, which already rejected in the verse 2, right? So they execute those karma kanda processes to go to higher planets. So, I mean, other than those gross materialists, who else will reject this? He gives that in between. And again, it comes in text 9. He talks about the description about the super soul. What is the length of physical dimensions of the super soul, and is how what he carries in his 4 hands, right? So those things. So in the 9 and 11, he gives very detailed description about very minute details, right? I mean, if we heard that those are very minute details, what he wears and what ankle belts, I mean, everything in very detail. Prabhupada comments there saying that, okay, it is to negate the impersonalists. It's the impersonalists will think that, no, we are imagining the form of the Lord and then meditating on it. Prabhupada says, no, if it is imagination, why so much details, right? So, I mean, it's not like it is changing also. Everybody, I mean, scriptures gives the details of the Lord very, very detailed and very consistent, right? It's not like the modern way of any, I mean, science or something philosophy. People keep changing it. They will give saying that, yeah, it may be like this, it may be like that. So it may be there that truth will be there for 100 years, and after 100 years or 200 years, some other scientist will come and say, no, 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 this is not right. It has to be something like this. Again, something else will keep adding it up or keep changing those things. Those are not absolute. But if we hear the description about the Lord, even whatever is there in the Bhagavatam, I mean, which even compiled by 5,000 years before that, much before it was there, right? Bhagavad Gita, the verses doesn't change, right? So that's why Prabhupada used to say, we know all details about Krishna, what is his address and who are his friends, what he does there, right? So, but I mean, the other thing is that, okay, is it possible to get these things just by reading the books? So of course, I mean, it's not right. One has to hear from parampara. One has to get this knowledge from parampara. I was hearing one other example, some devotee sharing. He met a professor while traveling in train in India. So the professor was a Bengali professor. So then they were interacting, and they asked the devotee asked the Bengali professor, "So what do you teach? What are your books?" He said Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that he teaches to the students. So then but he's not a devotee, right? So Chaitanya Charitamrita for us it is like a PhD, right? I mean a PhD book. So such a detailed descriptions about the devotees in relationship with Lord and his the relationship with different devotees, very very detailed. But somebody who doesn't hear that, he did not just he has a book, but he's reading it. It's nice Bengali. He's reading it and teaching it, but he doesn't understand that it is a I mean he might get some sukruti, some I mean kinja bhakti might get it, but unless one hears from the devotee, he will not be able to get that. Unless if he hears that commentary from a devotee, he will not be able to get anything from that book, right? I mean the parampara or Prabhupada, what we are getting, that is very nice. So then coming back to the descriptions about the Lord, how do we take advantage of this so nice? I mean, we are not descriptions about the Lord. We are not Ashtanga yogis to meditate on the super soul, and right. We are not even. I mean, many of the people in the Kali Yuga are not capable of doing the so-called stringent. The 9 stages of Ashtanga yoga, the eight stages of the yoga process, right? Yama, Niyama, Pranayama, Pratyahara, and all this is coming at Dharana, Dhyana stage, right? So then the Lord, he says that he kindly appeared in the form of a deity, right? So because we can see him and relate him in the form that we can every day see, right? And the great acharyas invited the Lord to come into those forms, right, and stay just for the people like many of us, right, who can take the darshan of the Lord. So it is not a made of, it is made of matter, but as soon as the Lord is invited by a pure devotee, it is no longer a matter. Right. I mean, then here Prabhupada was saying that those all things that are decorated on the Lord, they are not material. If it is material, they cannot be in connect touch with the Lord. Right. So the same way, I mean, when the deity once Lord is invited by authorized process and it's called by an authorized using authorized process and it's invited by a great authorized person, right? So it is no longer going to be a material a matter after the Lord comes there. It is a real Krishna is living there. We may not be able to see the Supreme Lord like great devotees will see, right? I mean, but at least we should have that understanding when we go in front of the deity and then observe each detail. The way Sukadeva Goswami is giving it very, very detailed, right? What he is wearing, what ankle belts, I mean, what color he is wearing, what kind of diamonds are there in his earrings, right? On his necklace, what kind of, different ornaments are there, right? One has to, I mean, if one can observe those things in detail and one will be able to meditate on those things, I mean, one will be able to, absorb or keep that form of the Lord within our mind and heart, right? So that will help us. I mean, in later verses, Sukadeva Goswami says how that helps, right? By this meditation purifies our intelligence, right? So we will not be thinking about other things when our mind is filled with the beautiful form of the Lord, right? That we are seeing in front of us. I mean, by the mercy of Prabhupada, all our deities are very, very well decorated, right? Very, very attractive, right? We really feel that Krishna is there, even if we are not pure devotees, right? So that's nicely it is decorated. So we need to observe each part of the body of the Lord and each ornament that is decorated on the body of the Lord, right? So one will be able to fix it, right? I mean, I was remembering even the DT, right? The Ramanujacharya example, the Dasharati, right? When Dhanurdas, I think, right? Dhanurdas, and he was a wrestler before he became a devotee. He was behind his girlfriend or wife, right? When the DT was going in possession, and he was going behind that lady carrying umbrella on her head, right? So, but every other person is going behind the Ranganath Swami. But then the Ramanujacharya sees him and then he asks him, "Why are you doing that?" He says, "No, no. I mean, she is very beautiful, and what is very attractive?" He says, "Her eyes. If I show something more beautiful, will you give it up?" Of course, he says yes. Then he takes both of them in front of Ranganath and he prays Ranganath. And Ranganath, I mean, of course, he is pure devotee Ramanujacharya. So he shows his beautiful eyes very few seconds, maybe, right, to this Dhanurdas and his wife, and they completely transformed. Right? I mean, the deity itself is not matter. So when a pure devotee can see it, but we may not be able to see it. But yeah, but when we able to meditate, we have that understanding that it's a transcendental, it is not a material. And if we can observe and meditate on that form, and we will be able to so-called lock in within our heart, right? Then we'll be able to it will help us, right? So I think maybe a few more minutes are there if anybody would like to share anything. So thank you so much. I know, I mean, I don't think I did any justification for these verses. They're very, very beautiful verses.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru and Government.
All glories.
Prabhuji, wonderful class. Even though you didn't
Thank
prepare
you.
for it, so wonderful. the verses are also wonderful, and how you describe them, put everything into context was really nice. I was focusing on the final verse, which was very beautiful, and Sukadev Goswami is actually describing the Lord's very minute details, his face, the color of his hair, and all those things. And when that was happening, what came to my mind was in the first canto, Bhishma Dev, before passing away, the last moments, the last 4 or 5 verses, he actually says, now, Uttarayana is arriving. So let me stop talking about all other things and focus my mind on the Lord. And then he says, I'm remembering Krishna in the battlefield that day when, he was covered with dust and the sun was focusing on his hair and, his yellow dress. Everything was glittering like gold. There were wound marks all over his body, but he looked so beautiful in his chivalrous this thing. And this is, only I think pure devotees can see these forms. And it's like a picture in my front, and this is the second occasion where I'm hearing it. Maybe, like in Parikshit Maharaj, while he was in the womb, he sees the Paramatma form, which is very beautiful, but it's not described in very detail, So I don't know if there are other occasions where contexts where the Lord's beauty is described in such detail, but I just want to stop there.
Thank you, Prabhu. Even I was thinking about that pastime just, before Bhishma Dev's pastime, when the Lord is even angry. When we see somebody angry, right, we get disturbed, right? Right, the body all will get shaken, then our mind gets completely perturbed and agitated, right? But when the Lord is got angry in front of Bhishma Dev in a pure devotee, right? So he was happy, right? He was receiving him. But yeah, when somebody is angry and approaching us, we will run away and we will ask them to get out, right? But when the Lord is angry, it is a transcendental, right? So it's not a.
Yeah. No, actually, that's a pretty good observation, Prabhuji. Bhishma Dev actually is so pleased. The same thing happens when Prahalad Maharaj sees Narasimha Dev in his book.
Yeah.
He's not afraid of the Lord. He's like, the Lord is mine, So, yeah, these are characteristics of, a pure devotee. So, thank you, Prabhuji.
Anyone else? Final sharing. It's 8 o'clock.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept
Hare
my
Krishna,
humble
Mataji.
obeisances. All
Please
glories to
accept my
Srila
humble
Prabhupada,
obeisances.
Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much for the very nice class, Prabhu. Nice to hear from you occasionally, at least. Very, very nice class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
We'll end here now. Yes, Chintamani Mataji, saying something.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I agree with everybody. Firstly, it is very nice to hear from you occasionally. And beautiful, beautiful verses. Such wonderful description
Verses
of the
are very. Yeah, that's why I took it up, Mataji. I didn't hear anybody coming forward, so I thought, okay, let me glorify. That's what I thought.
Yeah, you at least you have that view, so that's good. And I was thinking, so poetic in text 10. His lotus feet are placed over the whirls of the lotus heart of great mystery.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just so beautiful. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Nice.
Very nice description. I don't know if we can remember these verses. At least the translations. It'll be very nice to,
yeah.
See that.
Yeah, at least nice meditation for the day.
Yeah, the verses itself is very, very nice, and the translations, Prabhupada, they put it so nicely, right? So it's nice.
Yes, Prabhu.
That's so sweet, and the translation is also very sweet. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. We'll end here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki